end of that secured a round.
Well, I believe our map bans are ready. Let's see which map we're going to be playing on. As usual, 7-map pool. We ban until we're left with 1, and it's yet again Oregon. We're continuing yesterday. What was it? 3 out of the 5 games with Oregon. Yeah, so 3 were Oregon games. None of them were casted by Dez, and not even today. So that it's slipping by, Dez. I gotta say, I know he's watching right now. There it is, Oregon as our decider. FAV Gaming had the ability to ban Villa, and I will just skip you guys' analysis for just a moment because this is something even my pea-brain can handle. FAV played Q Confirm on Villa last Playday, lost 7-0. Probably not the map to play this time. I know, right? It's amazing analysis like nothing you've ever heard.
I don't think you're not saving a 7-0 over a week or even 2 weeks. That requires a little bit more work. So yeah, I don't think there's any magic in that ban.
Definitely not. And if you're looking back at FAV, they managed to win from Guts Gaming 7-3 in Oregon as well. So it shows that they are familiar on the map and they feel comfortable, as Guts, of course, ended number 2 at the end of phase 1.
Okay, we have our social media stuff ready for you, so let's see what you guys think about this match. Japanese fans, are you showing up? Yes, and pretty heavily for FAV Gaming. Understandable, given like the total performance for Japanese teams, but you might want to take into consideration that last Playday. Maybe it could confirm as another level. We'll have to see. Is this going to be a slog or not? 67% for FAV, 33% for Nora Rengo. You can vote on all of these matches by going to our social media. So, at R6 APAC League, and yeah, there we go, R6 Esports APAC. You can hashtag us, hashtag R6 APAC. And yeah, we can post stuff for you during the match, right? We're gonna have pop-ups all throughout the game. But I believe our match is ready. And I know everybody wants to hear us talk and ramble on about stuff, but it's time to get this one in the show. We're gonna kick it off to our casters on Oregon. Get another one. I know, crazy. It's all onto Gio and Dev, who apparently are now like this big duo with a lot of music that plays around them. I see what you post, Gio. I don't get it. That's just my head. Boomer. I know, right? Let's kick it to you on Oregon.
My memes slap,
So you like
Milosh.
music?
They slap.
I was gonna say that, yeah, your music does slap, absolutely. Welcome on in. Let me tell you a story about 2 Japanese teams that went hunky-dory. It's Oregon once again. I just almost spilled my coffee all over me. That would certainly wake me up. Once again, we get to see Oregon Geo. I'm super keen to jump into this one. I was surprised to see that FAV was so favored on that vote, and I think finally people are starting to realize that maybe Nora Rengo aren't all that was chalked up to be.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. One thing that they mentioned on the desk was this fact that, FAV Gaming, they struggled in their last Playday, to say the least. The 7-0, a pretty brutal scoreline. And even despite that, people still have high expectations for them because Nora Rengo haven't been able to prove that they deserve it themselves.
Very much so. Nora Rengo have definitely struggled against the Japanese teams here. Just last week, you mentioned as well, Guts took down Nora Rengo very convincingly, and FAV absolutely flopped against Q Confirm as well. So both of these teams have a lot to prove coming off of losses just last week. But Milosh said it, we're here into phase 2 of stage 1. I know it's a bit confusing. What that means is the brackets reset, and these guys have another chance to grab some points to get themselves up on the standings and in those spots for the mini major for APAC, which is so imperative, and it's what all these teams are chasing. But also there's a little bit of a backstory here, a little bit of a feud between these teams. They've played each other season on season in the Japanese Pro League, and finally we get to see them here as part of APAC North. Now, FAV Gaming have come out of the gate so strongly here in APAC North, but Nora Rengo are still trying to chase that legacy that they once built for themselves. Will they be able to do it? Well, they're up against their homegrown fiends here in FAV Gaming. Let's see what they can do.
At the very least, Nora Rengo have a little bit more experience on this map. They've played it twice this season so far, but what that also means is that FAV then have all that information available to them to see exactly how it is. The Nora Rengo did that. They lost on Playday 1 to QC, and then they won on Playday 5 to Electrify. So they have seen some improvement as time goes on, but kicking things off with the operator bans, Nora Rengo are going to be starting off with a Nomad.
So they want to play the roam game, hey? They want to execute those flanks. Now, we've casted a lot of Oregon recently, haven't we? And the secret game yesterday, we saw a couple of attempted flanks, and despite that Nomad being banned, we didn't really see so many of those flanks be super successful. So it does make me wonder a little bit, you know, is Nora Rengo going to be able to play into this? Particularly when FAV are on their attack, they just take so much initiative, and they're so fast and always together. So I think from FAV's perspective, they just have to be extra careful that they have someone watching those flanks to make sure that players from Nora Rengo can't get a little bit greedy or a little bit aggressive there on those flanks. But of course, that does work both ways, and it's something that FAV can then use for themselves when they are on the defense later in the game as well.
And that's the Wamai who's going to be going. And he's been a really popular ban on this map of late. And obviously, he's instrumental in certain defenses. For example, if you're holding up on the top floor and you want to make Attic pretty difficult to take, Wamai is a very good option there. So we're seeing him be taken out a lot because it gives the attackers the advantage there. And of course, Echo joining the fray at the end there because he's no longer on the permaban.
Yeah, and Nora Rengo getting rid of that one. It's historically one of their favorite bans, which is kind of ironic since it is the Japanese operator. But, you know, obviously that doesn't play much into the decision to not want to play against it here on this map. Now, that one my ban. I'm trying to think, is that maybe something that that Nora Rengo would expect to come from FAV? Because the last time FAV played Oregon against Guts, they did ban it, but that's the only time I've actually seen them ban Wamai in the past. So it makes me wonder a little bit, look, is Nora Rengo going to be ready for that? We've seen them utilize that in the past. And, well, I definitely think the Wamai could be a hugely impactful ban and really enabling these attacks to more successfully brute force, clear out util. You know, you've got 2 grenades and 2 explosives from Afro here on this operator lineup. So that's a lot of util to then clear out any shields brought to the table. We do have 2 of them from the Nora Rengo side, one on Soulboy, one on Yashingo, and only those 3 ADSs from Papilia to protect them. So I'm pretty confident here that Fab's going to be able to dispatch with that utility without too much trouble.
Well, it looks like FAV Gaming are going to be going for the Talon Esports way of doing things, and that involves bringing the Blackbeard down here on the basement site. They really were the first team here in APAC that we saw make that work for them. It was a little bit unorthodox at the time, but you know, evidently FAV want to continue on the trend. And one of the things that you have to bear in mind about FAV, and we've noted it in a number of their games, is you have those 2 really star players on the team in the form of Afro and number 2, and if they're enabled, then you can pretty much tear down any opponent against whom you come across. But if they get taken down very quickly, suddenly you have a significantly weakened team that struggle quite significantly to deal with what their opponents bring. So that's what Nora Rengo are going to have to deal with as they come in on their attack.
So having a look here at Nora Rengo's defense, with the mirror left slip through, it does mean we'll see 1 mirror window in the closet facing towards laundry and a second one likely placed here on the freezer. Now it's still in the pocket for Samatuki, so he can change it late round if he wants it instead to face this rear north side, perhaps on the wall facing the tower stairs, which is what we've seen in the past from some teams, particularly in the EUL just last night. And that might be the better option because that's where FAV are shaping up their push at the moment, though it is somewhat split. You've got the 3 players on the attacking side coming from that rear tower and then 2 players looking to shape up around freezer. In fact, both mirrors have now been deployed, so that is one facing the freezer there with Papilia as well in a position to peek in front of the mirror from Lockett. So Shin's going to have to deal with that. He's being live droned now down the stairs, and no doubt we'll see Afro call out the utility that has been placed. And I mean, a Blackbeard shield is nice, but you still can't go up against a mirror window.
It's certainly very difficult, and the positioning of these windows is very similar to how BDS like to position theirs. We've seen a little bit of variety from a number of teams in various regions as to how they do like to play those windows, but this is exactly how BDS played. And when Rogue it was who went up against them dealt with that, they just made sure they had a very heavy and coordinated push from the tower stairs boiler area that basically forced the player out of pillars, which is where they were at the time. In this case, that's going to be Yashingo positioned over there, and you could take control from that way. But, you know, FAV Gaming, they're taking their time, and they're actually not going to be coming in from the construction side, which is what you would expect in a kind of push like that. Instead, they're going to be droning in from laundry, and looks like preparing to come in that way.
there is still that presence at Freezer, and yeah, it's interesting to see that FAV have basically completely defaulted off of that push that they didn't initially tease out coming from rear tower. Now that is where kind of there is least utility, the least point of resistance from Nora Rengo, but FAV deciding just going to go straight ahead and go for this laundry take. Good use of the smoke grenade from number 2, blocks off the line of sight from that rear window, but not completely. Simatsuki gets traded out, and that's good Freezer control now for FAV Gaming. They start to make their move here, but it's not all spelled doom for them yet. Nora Rengo just go out and peek everything. And looking the wrong way, that's Afro get caught out on Freezer. My goodness, did things turn around there. And Nora Rengo, with 30 seconds left, close out that round a bit early.
Yeah, it really looked like for a while that FAV were well positioned to be able to deal with these refrags that they wanted to secure for themselves as they came in from simultaneously the laundry side and the Freezer side. But obviously it kind of got to the point where there were still all these members of Nora Rengo who were relatively untouched, more in the kind of supply and pillars area that I spoke about, more to the north side of the map, that they could just come in and able to pick off those remaining members of FAV. And you mentioned that the map ended relatively early, not something we're super used to seeing in Siege these days, as oftentimes you wait for the very end for things to be pushed up on like that. But good start there for Nora Rengo, and they're going to be heading upstairs for their next site. And there have been a couple of switch-ups on either side. You've obviously got quite a decent amount of information and intel gathering there on the defensive side with the Valkyrie and the Maestro, but also the denial in the form of the Kai.
That wall denial can be quite imperative, but with that Maverick on the board, Taipon should be able to make reasonably short work of these reinforced walls, but it is kind of complicated. It's a bit more complicated than if it was just a mute or a bandit, because if it's a mute or bandit, you know it's at the bottom of the wall. You can just put a little Maverick hole there and dispatch with that, and then maybe use your secondary hard breach to actually breach the wall, whether it's a Thermite or a Hibana. But in this case, for one, FAV isn't bringing a second hard breach. Taipon is the lone hard breacher that they are bringing to the table, which means if they want an actual entry hole, they have to do the complete Maverick trick where they do one line at the top, one line at the bottom, that destroys the reinforced part of the wall, and then they have to go and use a shotgun or the sledgehammer or whatever to breach out that soft part as well. So it does make you a little bit curious as to how FAV are going to make this work, because the Maverick trick does leave that Maverick player a little bit exposed for a little bit of time, especially to shots through the reinforced walls, the holes in the reinforced wall, potentially C4s below or through those holes. So they're definitely going to be looking out for Taipon to stay safe.
I think that's also a really good point as well, because it means that you have to play a little bit more cautiously with Shin on the sledge, for example, or Afro on the Zephyr if they decide to use the lifelines to help out with that. Because if you do lose those soft breaches, that means that you're gonna essentially have to choose to only open one of those reinforced walls, because you won't have the option to do both just yourself. And as you say, typically you'd expect to see 2 hard breaches here so that you can guarantee that the attic wall and the games wall do get open. Now, obviously, they've started things off on the attic wall here, and that's going to begin to be opened. Now, whether or not they decide to make that rotation back around so they can head over towards the games wall is something else, but there's quite a lot of presence up here from Nora Rengo. They've all started to dissipate somewhat. And I like this positioning as well by Shin, who's opened up some of the floor so he can watch out below and just ensure that rotation isn't going to be able to be made by Nora Rengo. Of course, they did ban the Nomad, so you kind of could expect that they want to be running a roam.
Yeah, that's a really important one there. Great flank watch position. Now Shin trying to burn out some utility, and since the ADSs are stacked in Pig, just where Yoshingo's playing near Attic, that means there's no ADS to chew up that grenade, and he successfully destroys that barbed wire. But Taipon's actually been taken down. We mentioned the C4s previously. Now I believe that was maybe Simatsuki, maybe it was... No. Simatsuki, yep, he's the only one who's lost the C4. There you go. He threw that C4 maybe through the Maverick hole or above it or onto the wall, so the explosion went through. And that did injure Taipon. Now he's got to be extra careful because he's so low on HP. Just a little bit of a breath from the gas, or maybe... Oh, actually, that gas could spell death for Taipon. It gets thrown right at the Maverick hole, but Taipon manages to finish opening the wall, and there are 2 picks for FAV. I have no idea where those came from. There you go. Shin came through Trophy and managed to find one. Also Afro below. This is looking really good for FAV.
You can see now Nora Rengo repositioning themselves to kind of prevent this push on up the stairs, but it's going to be them. They managed to get 1 kill, but 2 for the side of FAV Gaming, who are consistently doing better here. They just have 1 player remaining, is Nora Rengo, and FAV did try to get the diffuser down, but they didn't even need it. Chloroform kills up that final kill.
really like that from FAV Gaming. It was a very split push. They made pretty short work of the attic wall. It was 1 minute 50 left on the clock by the time they'd fully opened that. And despite the fact that they didn't actually spearhead their primary push through attic, which I think is the right idea, you don't want to invest too much util there because it's just really hard to funnel down that choke point. They rotated around to games through master. It was all on Taipon to open up that wall, and yeah, he had a few problems with it, but Nora Rengo got a little bit antsy on site, kept peeking. Shin found a kill through the trophy right onto the bomb site onto Mariu, and we also had the who was it? Zafia Afro going downstairs looking for any players attempting some kind of vertical pressure, and also with the ability to flank up white stairs late. Now that spelled death for Soulboy, who was on that roam as a Valkyrie, kind of teetering around the bottom white stairs. So overall, FAV were really spread out on their attack in a way that they capitalized perfectly on everything that Nora Rengo tried to do and just shut down those plays one by one.
I'm very interested here in the fact that Nora Rengo have opted to bring a mirror this time. Not quite as common to see her on this side as it is down in the basement. And, you know, evidently they decided that what was happening before wasn't working out for them. The Kaid has also been replaced as well. It's Simatuki picking up the smoke there instead. They had the smoke before, but it was Yoshingo taking on that role. He's now on the mirror. And one of the things that did cause Nora Rengo a little bit of grief in the mid-round especially was that positioning from Shin in Trophy, where they were able to just get a free angle. I believe it was Afro as well who managed to get a kill at the exact same time. And so I think the fact that Nora Rengo are investing some of that, or one of those operator slots, and some utility in being able to ensure that those angles are held and they can't be caught out like that could be valuable to them, especially if they felt the Kaid wasn't enough.
Yeah, I think it's smart to get rid of the Kaid because, you know, what's it going to do against a Maverick? Absolutely nothing. Maybe a tiny bit of damage, but, you know, who really cares about that? With the C4 that was more impactful. So, yeah, I guess we'll see in the late round. Maybe it'll stall out FAV's final push into the bomb site with those mirror windows. I didn't quite see where both of them were placed, but I guess there are a couple ideas that you could teeter around for the bomb site. Let's have a look. Yoshingo, one mirror window in, yeah, there you go. In kids facing towards big window. Now that might not be super impactful since FAV didn't really try and leverage that presence, but where's that second mirror window? Is it on the top white stairs?
He's holding
wall?
it. It's in his pocket.
He's holding it. Thank you, Easy, and thank you, Gio. I wonder what's the idea with that? Is he just not intending to put a second one down? Because, like, I mean, I can see there's no harm in just putting it on the game's wall and just not blowing it. I mean, it's fully reinforced, but that's going to be a real hindrance to that Maverick. If he tries to open up that wall with the Maverick trick, he's got to deal with the fact there's a mirror there and the constant threat that maybe it'll get popped, maybe a C4 will come through. So, I mean, a couple ideas here from Nora Rengo. This looks very much off the cuff, and we'll see if it works out.
Swapping backs.
Well, Papelia is going to be looking in for some of those early shots as he waits here behind a shield in the attic. There's going to be some... There we go. Nade thrown in. I guess I was going to say, they're not much ADS placed there if they feel that they can just throw a nade in, but he's placing down one now, so there's still going to be more utility that has to be cleared out there by FAV Gaming. And there we go, there's the Excaros being landed straight onto the game's wall. So mirror window, I guess, is not going to go there at any point, and Simatuki's got to prepare himself in. The Excaros pellets are going to be popped off of the trophy wall. Papilia was just in position to shoot them entirely, and I believe that means all of those pellets are gone, and that wall isn't going to be opened.
Shin almost found the exact same kill that he got last round. Now, I do really like this adaptation from FAV bringing that second hard breach. We talked about it earlier. Shin gets rid of the sledge, not super important here. Spots out that play. You can see how antsy Nora Rengo are once again peeking on the objective, and that shows how FAV got such an early man advantage last time around. Now, if Nora Rengo can win some of these gunfights, maybe we won't criticize them so much, but Afro's going over to big window, and FAV are starting to get a stranglehold here on Nora Rengo.
15 seconds left.
Let's see if he's actually able to get some value here. You mentioned how it wasn't really something that FAV went for before. Chloroform's going to be getting a kill there onto Soulboy. That's that Valkyrie gone, but Nora Rengo beginning to turn things around. Diffuser is going down. Just 2 members remaining here of Nora Rengo, and they're going to be going on the prowl. Papilia, he manages to get the Diffuser shot. And Nora Rengo, they get themselves their second round.
for so much of that round, we were kind of teetering around thinking, what is happening? There's not a lot, just slow progress for FAV. Open this, open that, breach that, maintain this position. Really nice stuff, I guess. But time did drain away, and that ended up being the ultimate enemy of FAV Gaming there. There was 5 players up for each team when there were 15 seconds left on the clock. And we're looking at that thinking, man, FAV really need to get a move on. They still had a player downstairs. Now, fortunately, Chloroform could eliminate that roamer of Soulboy to ensure that C4 couldn't deny the plant. But even though FAV found those opening engagements and started to explode quite successfully onto the bomb site, started getting that plant down, it ended up in a situation where FAV were in a 3 versus 2. So they had numbers advantage with 5 seconds left on the timer. But because it's only 5 seconds, even though they have 3 players, they have 1 more than Nora, they've got to have someone planting, which makes it effectively a 2 versus 2. And in that 2 versus 2, it just comes down to 1 or 2 gunfights sliding the way of Nora Rengo. In this case, it was Papilia who swung out. We just saw the replay of it, swung out onto Shin from Pig out in towards Dorm's main hall. That first kill, that was super essential. If Shin had won that gunfight, I'm telling you, that would have been a FAV Gaming round. And sometimes it really does just come down to that. A single gunfight can spell an entire round when there's only a few seconds left on the clock.
I mean, you would always hope that, you know, when one of your players is planting a diffuser, you've got those crossfires set up so you can't allow something like that to happen. But in that case, Papilia was just better. Whether or not he'll be able to recreate those results on this site is yet to be seen. Now, one thing I'm really interested to see is how FAV Gaming decide to approach this. Last time, they came for that sort of simultaneous laundry freezer push, and it didn't work out for them. They got a few early shots in, but Nora Rengo kind of came in and rushed at them at the end and could clean things up. They didn't go for any kind of construction push and didn't even put any pressure onto, you know, the tower stairs down into boiler towards pillars where Yashingo was positioned. I want to see if they decide to do that here. And actually, straight away, you can already see one member of FAV Gaming positioned on the stairs. That's going to be number 2. He wasn't there before. Beforehand, he came down laundry stairs and he actually used those smokes to block off the mirror window.
Yeah, and already we're seeing an adaptation here from FAV, which I really like, which is bringing that Hibana once again. They brought it for that top floor round just prior, and it worked out, especially because Nora had no breach denial. And this is super essential. Nora Rengo consistently banned Mirror so far in APAC North League, so FAV would have no idea that Nora Rengo are really going to lean into that. Now Nora have brought it every single round, and it's been really, almost every single round, and it's been really impactful, especially here on this bottom floor defense. But that Hibana can counter that Mirror if you just put some X-Karas on the Mirror window. And that might spell death for the plans of Simatsuki here. So I really like this adaptation from FAV Gaming, and I hope it works out.
You also have to remember, of course, they could be denied the push because of the Griswold Mines of the Ella. And I like this drone here from Shin. He can just keep an eye on exactly where Papilia is. They have that intel on what's going on in the freezer, and there's no real rush. The round ended very quickly last time they came to this site, and this time FAV are taking their time a little bit more. Have to be aware of exactly where Simatsuki is positioned here, as he is ready to take that angle should FAV Gaming move in, and that's why that nade's going to be cooked, but it's thrown over a little bit too far. Simatsuki manages to not really have his life threatened all that much. In goes the smoke, and an extra one as well, but straight away, number 2, he's going to be down. FAV Gaming finished things up, though, and they're still going to retain that man advantage.
And they're furthering it now. Afro finds his second, and Nora Rengo are being dismantled here. But can FAV start to force down this plant? They have one player injured, finished off now by Soulboy. The smoke obscuring the vision of both teams. And it makes us wonder, with 20 seconds left, maybe is this possible here for Soulboy? And Meryu, Soulboy has the perfect position, but he needs to deny the plant. He can't see that position. Finally gets the shot, but he is traded. With the diffuser down on the ground, it's all up to Meryu now to clutch up. He sees that player, Afro, who's been huge so far this round, and he's not going to overpeak. Meryu has to take this gunfight. First one comes around the corner. He takes it out. 1 versus 3 becomes a 1 versus 2. Is this maybe possible now for Meryu? Can he spot the player on the long angle on top of the dryer? He's going to peek straight back into it. Chloroform sees him through the mirror window, but doesn't spot that shot. Now, Meryu, maybe this is possible, but time is ticking away, and it's getting more and more difficult with FAV Gaming retreating to more safe positions. They can play for sound cues here on this diffuser. Meryu has to go for these kills one by one, but FAV Gaming to lock it out here on their attack. A very strong start, furthering that man advantage and then playing the post plant to perfection.
You could see how bereft of intel Nora Rengo were at the end there, as Meryu really had to cautiously check every angle before making any decision to commit to one. And that can only work out for so long, especially when you're the only one remaining on the site there. And actually it was Meryu who finished up the round back on round 1 when Nora Rengo did win that site. So once again, you got the same guy remaining at the end. Didn't do a bad job, but obviously it wasn't enough. And actually, Nora Rengo are opting to return to the same site. And they're going to be making a really interesting adaptation here by bringing the Warden instead of the Mirror. Ooh. One of these big things that FAV Gaming have been going about in their attack is smokes to obscure those mirrors, to obscure the lines of sight, especially down here in Laundry, where a lot of those, crossfires are trying to be held. Nora Rengo can't make any commitment to any of those shots that they could take because I can't see anything. And Sound, of course, will give away their own locations. Warden will give them the opportunity to see through that. And even if it's not Simatuki himself who's involved in those fights, he can pass on information to the rest of his team about the location of members of FAV Gaming that could allow them to win out those gunfights.
10 seconds to
and even on the replay there, you can see that round was really a game of smoke and mirrors, quite literally. And that's why I really like this Warden pick coming out. Yeah, Gio, as soon as that round ended, I had that line prepared.
That's a good one. I'm proud of you.
Thanks,
That was quite good.
And that Warden is the perfect operator to really counter that. Now, the Warden does pair somewhat well with the Mirror, because if they smoke the Mirror, you can just play behind it as the Warden and see through it. But in this case, Nora Rengo also decided to change. Actually, it's quite a significant shake-up of their operator lineup. Meryu goes over to the Valkyrie instead of the Maestro, which ironically is one of those operators that can see through smoke, at least with his Evil Eyes. Papilia is the only one who's actually stayed on the same op from last round. Everyone else is trying to make adaptations to counter the way FAV are pushing. In particular, Soulboy bringing that Legion does maybe stilt the way that FAV like to sneak down and take some ground, especially in the late parts of that round. If they start to run into those goo mines, it'll make those executions really difficult, and also potentially those Goyo shields. In particular, if you're abandoning, let's say, the smoke and the Ella, right, you lose some of those shields that they would bring, whereas Goyo brings 2 straight up. So I like these changes from Nora, but on the flip side, we also see Shin jump on that Thermite. Now, he's already used one of those exothermics on, I believe it was the freezer hatch.
The freezer hatch.
So, yep, there you go. So it does make me wonder why, if he's just using them on both hatches, why is he switching off the Hibana? It's just a mystery to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just preference. It is one of those things where you typically do expect to see the X-Cars get used more frequently, but either way, those hatches are open, so the job has been done. They don't need to worry about it all that much, and you've just got these members of Nora Rengo down here waiting for that push.
Look at this change here from Simatuki. Instead of having the mirror window in place, they've got that bulletproof camera. Now, that can see through smoke, unlike the mirror window. So can Simatuki if he peeks out. Now, Shin, no doubt, has just spotted Simatuki at that rotate hold, and he knows that there is a Warden in play. Simatuki here may well be the impactful player if FAV Gaming continue these smoke-centric pushes. They have 4, just as they've had every round so far, on the Jackal and on the Gridlock. Can Papilia maybe have a bit more of an impact than he's had in these previous rounds where he has struggled to hold Freezer?
Well, it's time to find out as he's waiting, and if he does get attacked upon by these 2 angles, one from the hatch, one from the stairs, that can make his life significantly harder. I mean, the shield is going to have to be cleared out, and there's the drop, but Afro's not going to survive it. Ready for the refrag, though, is Shin, so Papilia isn't going to live that one out. Number 2 getting a kill for himself as well, but Taipon's going to find himself bleeding out. Just 2 members remaining here on Nora Rengo. We have seen this work out for them before, so it's not the end of the world.
I like this. FAV have given themselves so much time by going for that execute. With 45 seconds left, it means they have some time here to play with, and they have that numbers advantage! Absolutely not, says Soulboy. Beautiful shot there on the chloroform and finishes off the down player. We're looking at Shin now to try to clutch. He has to file through this doorway. Doesn't have the diffuser in pocket. This is going to be so difficult for the Thermite player. Stepping in the goo mines, absolutely not a chance. And that is Nora Rengo. Great adaptations, great start. And they close out that round there on Laundry.
Once again, an example of Nora Rengo looking down the barrel of a man disadvantage and saying, actually, no, we don't care. It's I agree. I really like the adaptations that were made from them. They understood that the mirror wasn't working out for them, and so they prevented FAV from having the advantage that they had so far, which was being able to push in from laundry, use those smokes, and use their superior intel, I want to say. But things are going to be pretty different moving on to this next site. Now, Nora Rengo once again are returning to kids, so they're only going to be focusing on these two sites. We haven't seen anything else from them. And actually, just looking at some of their statistics, these are the two sites they've been to the most out of on this map. The only other one they've been to is Meeting Hall and Kitchen, which they haven't done too badly on, but clearly this is where their focus has been. But some changes coming up, and I'm wondering if they were anticipating this Monty, given that they opted to bring the Legion. He's someone who you would kind of expect, but there is also no smoke. So they've decided to go for one of those potential counters and not the other. But the important thing is there is that Monty. This isn't something that we've seen from FAV Gaming so far today.
Yes,
Nice
now
pre-play
FAV did
C4.
tease it out in one of those early rounds. Yeah, that is a nice pre-play C4. So if FAV once again go out and repel into Armory, which Shin has done every round to cut off that rotate downstairs, then yeah, he may get C4. But of course, he's playing the Monty, so probably going to approach differently this time. But yeah, Shin actually teased out the Monty in a previous round, and then Six picked onto the sledge. This time, maybe Nora Rengo are thinking they're going to do the same. So a bit of mind games, but yeah, in this case, Shin does stick it. And as you mentioned, that Legion will potentially slow down the Monty, but we showed the Legion last round was super impactful at just slowing down FAV in general, not just their shield player. Now you Shin go to roam downstairs. Shin just getting an angle to look in through garage. I think he's actually looking for that C4. He seems to be very aware that the C4 is there and he wants to shoot it, but Shingo roaming downstairs, and with those regenerating goo mines, he may be able to litter those around downstairs and make it much more difficult for Chloroform to push through as he has done previously and clear out those roamers downstairs. Nice shot there. Good teamwork. Shin pings it out and Afro cleans it up.
Love a bit of teamwork to get rid of the intense threat of the C4, but yeah. That's being cleared out now, so that does mean that... Well, Armory's free from that risk, but obviously this is where Yoshingo is positioned. He's going to be rotating around back over towards Trophy as he throws that goo mine down the stairs, and it's going to make it harder there for FAV to make that push on up the stairs. And so they are going to have to require some coordination here. And this is Afro getting ready for that Armory repel that we spoke about before. That's always been taken on by Shin so far.
Overall, Nora Rengo is just playing us so much more aggressive than they've done in the past, and I really like it. It already is panning out. Papilia is staying at T3 right now with 2 ADSs. It's so difficult to flush him out, which means FAV can't open up that main wall into Attic that they've done previously. Soulboy also finds, no doubt that was a run out by the sound of that reverb. It sounded like that was an outside shot from the MPX, and that takes down Chloroform as well. Number 2's taken out, so this is looking so good here. I mean, Taipon does find that trade on the Papilia, which means FAV can go and take Attic now from Big Tower, but I just think it's too little too late, and they're really going to have to rely on maybe Shin just getting aggressive here. But with those goo mines continually regenerating from Yoshingo, it's going to be so difficult to make some kind of execute onto site. Taipon really has to leverage this position with the Maverick and flush out this position that Simatuki is playing here in games, and I don't know if that's going to work.
Is the C4 going to be able to get anything? No, it's not. Type 1 doesn't move out of the way. And if they can get the shot through here, then maybe there is still hope. But as you say, only 20 seconds remaining, really. And Shin's just waiting patiently before he begins to make his move in. But it might be hard to coordinate this push with so many members of Nora Rengo still standing. Shin starting things off with Simatuki going down. FAV Gaming, they have less than 10 seconds, though.
And the plant happens. Shin trying to cover, but oh, that's so essential. The planter gets taken out. Now Shin has to fight everybody. He can find 2 kills, but man, that is just not enough. It was so close there for Taipon to duck into that corner and start that plant. If he had done so, FAV would have won that round, but no. It all came down to Shin, and he can't fight everyone with the P9. Once again, Nora Rengo steal away a round on the back of some really smart adaptations, not only in their operator lineup, but in the way that they're playing. And this is the best Nora Rengo have looked all season.
One of the really interesting things is that here in APAC North, Oregon has a 58% defensive win rate, and yet Nora Rengo have just taken 4 attacking rounds, which doesn't set a very good scene here for FAV as they move into their defender side, and suddenly they should have the advantage here, but oh, sorry, Nora Rengo took 4 of their defensive rounds. I've written it down as Nora Rengo were on the attack, which is absolutely wrong.
That's okay. I mean, it does kind of make sense, right? You said a 58%, right? And it was 60% win rate on the defensive Nora. It's all right. It's all right. It happens.
You know, it happens. But either way,
my spreadsheet always messes me up with that.
I hate Excel, so I don't use spreadsheets. I write things by hand because I live in a century that is not my own.
I'm considering purchasing shares in Google Sheets with the amount that I use it.
Oh my god. Well, interestingly here, we've got a pretty different type of defensive setup coming out from FAV with the Clash. It's not something that we saw from Nora Rengo. And so that means that extra shield is going to be something that has to be dealt with. Now, there is a little bit of denial as well, as we have the mute on number 2. And it does look like Nora Rengo are going to be coming in from the construction side, which isn't the sort of attack that we saw from FAV. If you remember correctly, there was a lot of focus on the freezer, on laundry. And so this is a different kind of approach.
Yeah, but on the defense, both of these teams are leaning into that mirror. In this case, the Clash is, I guess, the outlier here for FAV Gaming. That may slow down Nora Rengo. There's not really a lot of utility that Nora have brought to the table that can deal with that Clash. You've got the 2 concussions from Simatsuki, and no doubt Yushingo's about to spot out that Clash on the rear stairs. And as you mentioned, this is very much a rear tower-centric push, at least for now. Use of the X-Kairos to deal with that hatch. No Kaid in play. In fact, the only wall denial being that mute means that it's going to be pretty simple and clear-cut for Nora Rengo to dispatch with most of these areas that they want to breach. But FAV are going to fight for this ground. You can see this presence at Pillar here. Typon and Afro are going to keep dancing around that to slow down Nora Rengo and hopefully stall them out and find a pick.
I mean, when you look at this, we've got this rotate that's been opened up in the supply wall. It's actually going to be closed off now. That could trap number 2 as he hasn't moved back in. But as I say that, he gets that shot onto Yushingo. But I was going to comment about how they haven't got rid of the mute jammer. They haven't got rid of the ADS, and they haven't got rid of the shield yet. There's going to be the nade to come in. So the shield does go down, but you've got 1 minute remaining.
Oh,
Usually you would expect something like that to be done by now, and there's the diffuser just right at number 2's feet.
That was a beautiful bait there, having number 2's teammate to go and reinforce that wall. It made Mary think, oh, the wall's reinforced, they've all retreated, I'm just going to go and see if I can peek him real quick. Number 2 is still there. Absolutely debated. Beautiful stuff. And now number 2 is trapped here in this corner, but I mean, he's playing with a shotgun, right? And he has info here from the Clash. I didn't even realize the entire wall is open, which means that Typon can just feed number 2 so much info, and also he can tase out that player. Now, good utility spam into the Clash, but there you go. Typon goes down. Good job from Soulboy, but still, number 2 has the diffuser in elbow. It looks like Nora Rengo can't get this ground back. They have no choice but to try. He finds his 4th. Can he ace here in Blue Blanca? This looks like it could be one of the best players I have seen so far. Number 2 with the ace. Absolutely nothing that Nora Rengo can do to contest this man.
Oh, it's absolutely brutal as well, just because it's at that point where as soon as they realized that number 2 was still there and would be a problem, where you kind of have it was at this point that I knew I don't need to finish the sentence.
We can PGify it.
Yeah, exactly.
Messed up.
So, but it was like, at that moment, Nora Rengo have got to think, what are we going to do about this? We can't do anything with the tower stairs because of the information that comes in from the Clash, and we don't really have time either. As I mentioned before, it took them so long to clear out that utility that was even protecting number 2. The ADS was still standing by the very end. The nades had been spent. The players on the side had been going down, and there's still a shotgun staring right there, and they have to move in because the diffuser's at his feet. So really, that round is played entirely into FAV's hand, and it's something they really needed, because obviously after this pretty dismal game that they had against Q Confirm in the last Playday. They need to prove that they are still this big contender in Japan, especially against this team who supposedly have been slipping and actually look like they've been making improvements recently and are going to be a little bit of a threat. So the fact that FAV have been able to pick up that round and maybe feel some momentum going forward, I think that's a very good thing for them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I will still stand by and say this is the best Nora Rengo have played all season, in my opinion. But not only do we got to credit number 2 for that ace, but that was one of the greatest baits I have ever seen in Rainbow Six Esports. Reinforcing that wall behind number 2 made Mary think, look, I know I've got the diffuser, I know my utility is super important, but they're reinforcing this. I'm going to sprint in and see if I can challenge him while he's reinforcing it. Because you don't expect that they're going to reinforce their player off trapped in blue. But that's exactly what FAV did. 200 IQ. And Meryu, not only being a player with tons of utility, but also with the diffuser, as soon as he was dead, that round was over, and number 2 was just his playground from then on. Beautiful stuff from FAV Gaming. Absolutely hilarious. That makes the highlight reel.
Well, they're going to have the same thing with the Clash here, where she can basically just stand very far forward and feed on information. If Nora Rengo actually want to be able to push in through the attic, they're going to have to expend some of that utility to get rid of her. Now, this is quite a wide roam here from Afro, and he's aware that Papilia is down here. Papilius, who's got some good shots before, but won't be able to again, as Afro does get that kill for himself. That's a pretty significant loss there for Nora Rengo.
Yeah, not only is that one of the impact players, but some utility, some good utility there from the Ash. The flashbangs, really good for burning those ADSs. Breaching rounds, good for destroying the Vulcan shield. So Afro helping to protect his own utility a little bit in that regard. But that doesn't spell death for Nora Rengo here. There's still a chance, and they've made really good timing thus far. It was only 45 seconds into the round when they had Attic open, but of course, FAV still have a lot of utility that Nora have to deal with, and namely those Goyo shields, the Vulcans, plus that Clash, which has proved to be ever elusive here for Nora Rengo. Now, Simatsuki trying to take this aggressive line. Number 2, once again in close quarters with the shotgun. Never count him out. Takes him 2 shots, but he gets the job done. He goes aggressive on the back of it. This man feels so much confidence right now, but he's about to get pinched. He hears the buck pick in the corner, finds that one as well. Yoshingo sit down. All gas still in the pocket for number 2. If he dies here, that's a lot of utility wasted, but he might not know it. He could actually trap Meryu here in the closet. If he gasses it, he's going to gas out the balcony. No, he's going to do it exactly. Meryu is lucky not to be breathing that right now. Number 2's position is so good right now. Meryu is absolutely trapped.
With 30 seconds to go, actually, he's going to be the one remaining. C4 to finish things off. That was just BM at the end there from Afro. That was a great round there from FAV. And once again, flawless. Not all done by number 2 this time, but it doesn't take the credit away. And I think it was just, I mean, more than anything, it's just an incredibly entertaining round. And even then, there were certain facets of their defense that you didn't even necessarily see shine. I mean, for example, the ADS placement in the attic, which meant that there wouldn't be able to be projectiles coming in from any angle onto the Clash, like including from dorms, including from that trophy area, let alone just from the attic wall, which you expect to see that push come in from. And so the Clash was incredibly protected from all sides. That meant that they didn't have to worry so much about her from the perspective of a cross angle, which meant the focus could be put elsewhere. And that's why we were able to see something like Afro on the row, where typically you would see the Goyo positioned in something like Kids. So I really like just all these different layers that FAV had to their defense there, and I'm very excited actually moving forward here into a meeting defense, because this isn't something that we saw from Nora Rengo. Now, they're bringing the castle and the Mozzie, so you can expect to see a little bit more roaming here and a little bit more of that utility demand from the attacking team. And hopefully if they can make it work for themselves, because you never know, but they'll be able to take some of those drones off of them and have that extra information. Now, they've been using something like the Clash as the information. We spoke about it back on the laundry defense, where they had her position so she could look directly through the open wall and provide that to number 2. But obviously you don't have a Clash this time. So having some of that extra information in the form of captured drones would be very useful for FAV Gaming here.
FAV making a strong comeback on their defenses. When FAV Gaming played Guts just last week on this very map, especially on this specific bomb site, FAV Gaming... Oh, sorry, no, this is actually meeting. It's not dining. Sorry, I thought this was... I can't remember whether it was dining or whether it was meeting. Let me just double check that real quick. But we saw FAV do some amazing things. It, in fact, was this very bomb site. They actually were flawless on their defense against Guts, 4 straight in a row to lock out the map. And this particular bomb site was the highlight for me. The way that the anchors downstairs in security and kitchen managed to support the players upstairs in Kid's bedroom was so impressive, using these vertical holes. Now, oh, what is that?
Okay.
How are you allowed to get away with that? Type on the smoke. What is it with FAV Gaming and aggressive smoke players? That is so beautiful. Yes, he takes a lot of damage, but that is huge. That is Neryu and no less 2 frag grenades and the Maverick torch taken off the board.
To quote NA's favorite phrase, what are they feeding them? And FAV Gaming seem to be incredibly confident more than anything today. They're perfectly happy and satisfied to be able to take a number of those shots that really they have no business in doing. And that's going to make it very much harder for Nora Rengo to be able to make their way in through from the meeting direction. And obviously you still got this player in the form of chloroform insecurity that you haven't even begun to try and clear out yet. And more than half the round is gone.
Soulboy spots type on. Ooh, drone's still not taken out, so that's allowed to get away scot-free, and he can continue droning. So Soulboy's got some good info here, knows about the smoke's position, and he's got good angles as well to expose where Taipon is sitting. You can see FAV are supporting each other. This is what we love to see. Shin has angles through the floor. Afro is watching the stairs to protect Shin's flank. All of these FAV players are supporting each other, but Nora Rengo is going to get the diffuser down. Surely this can be denied. No, that gas does not seem to be landing enough. And Yashingo manages to get the diffuser down, but number 2 in chloroform, very keen here to make a retake happen, and numbers advantage is squarely in favor of FAV Gaming. They've been undefeated on this bomb site, undefeated on defense so far, on Oregon thus far, and it just does not seem to be letting up. All on Soulboy now, the Hibana. He can find 1 or 2 kills, but this is looking very difficult. He has to ace clutch or delay time. 3 kills now. Maybe this is possible for Soulboy, but he gets taken down, and this is FAV Gaming to lock out another defensive round successfully on the retake.
So ready to jump into action, and I think it's fair to say they didn't really expect that to happen, even when we were talking about how their defense was set up to hold the angles in through the floor and have that presence upstairs, because they expected some rotation through that side of the map. And really, it wasn't touched. Nora Rengo came in and they said, all right, well, we're just going to ignore all that and we're going to go in straight for the defuse because we can right now. The smoke wasn't enough in the moment. It was a tiny little bit too late. And I don't think FAV were necessarily expecting that to happen. Now, obviously, being a very aggressive and coordinated team, or at least as they're showing us so far today, they were ready to push on up. They did have some casualties in the process, but while they were able to win out that round, I think it's fair to say it went in a direction that they didn't necessarily expect. They thought they were completely prepared. So going downstairs now, and they have 1 or 3 of their defensive sites. We'll have to see if they feel completely prepared to deal with this. Now, it's questionable as to whether or not number 2, or just the team in general, would be able to get away with what they did before, because obviously they opened up that rotate and the attacking team expects at some point the rotate to be closed, but only after the player has rotated back through onto site. Otherwise, you essentially just trap them. So I suspect that they'll be a little bit more cautious to ensure that if they do, well, they have opened the rotate, but if they do have a similar setup, that player has actually gone through, and they're not going to let the diffuser be dropped right there. But who knows? FAV Gaming might say, well, you know, we did it once, we can do it again. We know what we are. We know what we're about. We can do it.
I mean, don't put it past number 2. He's having the game of his life right now. In fact, it really looks like that for a lot of FAV Gaming. They are really feeling confident, which is great to see after getting smacked about by Q-Confirm on Villa just last week. FAV Gaming seem to be a force to be reckoned with, absolutely engaged on another level, Super Saiyan even, here on Oregon. And, well, I'm getting flashbacks here to the Guts game. because FAV Gaming switched onto their defense in the second half. They won downstairs, they won dorms, they won meeting, and then they went back downstairs and locked out the game. Now it looks like we may see something very similar here. What is this roam from Shin? I like how he stick picks off the Vigil, which is, you know, an ideal roamer, onto the mirror, and then goes and roams anyway. Like, a 3 armor, 1 speed, trying to roam. Surely he can't get away with this.
I would love it if he does, though. Because, I mean, Nora aren't going to expect him to be there, but actually it looks like they're going to be moving down, and instead Afro is going to be the one getting that opening kill. Onto Papilia, once again, that Ashe being lost very, very early. As we've noted before, I'm wondering if Shin's going to go and pick up that C4 and decide to do something again, given that FAV aren't spending much time, Nora aren't spending much time up there. Afro, once again, adding to his collection.
He loves to peek, this man, and he's got Type 1 to help support with callouts. Just found 2 kills, and Afro knows he doesn't need to get too aggressive here. And now Chloroform to reinforce up the elbow wall into blue from Supply. So much info being gathered here for Type 1, and Nora Rengo were really stalling out here on this attack. They don't have the control they think they do. Shin's about to go for a flank. Surely there's a drone watching this. Apparently not. Simatsuki goes down. Almost trips on that Claymore, but says no thank you. Goes back upstairs. And Nora Rengo cannot contain FAV Gaming right now. There is so much map control here for FAV, and absolutely nothing that it seems Meryu can do about it. Oh, maybe not so. Him and Soulboy both find picks, but there's a lot to claw back. A lot of work still to be done in this 2 versus 3.
There's immediate repositioning from FAV Gaming once number 2 was taken down, and Nora, they're just going to have to support each other here. Soulboy very low on HP, so he could be an easy target. Meryu's going to have to open up that wall and hope that they're going to be able to find what they're looking for so that they don't get it to match point. But, oh no, it wasn't the smoke, it was the shot once again from FAV. Diffuser dropped, and now it's just Soulboy on his own.
No time. Surely there's no hope here. Sees that one player, it's Afro. He's not going to get too greedy because Chloroform wants it. And he secures that one, chucks it in the bag. There you... No, what? Afro stole it anyway. You can't stop this man. He wants all of them.
It's like each of these players in FAV are subsequently going to get their own round where they get all the kills. You know what I mean? And it's like...
Oh, yeah.
You know what's really interesting about this game to me so far is when we look back to Playday number 3, where FAV played against Xavier on Theme Park, and you might think, why are you bringing up Theme Park, Gio? They looked really messy. Like, extraordinarily messy. And it looked like everyone else just didn't know what they were doing, and if number 2 or Afro popped off, then they'd get around, but if they didn't, then they wouldn't. And we have seen them popping off here, but it hasn't felt like that's the only thing they have going for them. It's felt like they're significantly more coordinated and understanding in the positions that they're taking and the decisions that they're making, and, you know, the rhyme that I'm doing here, apparently. And that's been a really nice thing to see, because this is a team who you should be expecting to be a bit more consistent and not struggling against, you know, no offense to Xavier, it's not like they're a bad team at all, but that was definitely a map that you would have expected them to be a bit more definitive on. And it feels like this is what we're starting to see now.
If FAV win this round here, they will be undefeated on defense in every single Oregon official match they have ever played. Honestly, FAV Gaming, I've seen quite a lot of Oregon now, right? Like, we watched, I don't know, a heck of a lot last night.
You sound like a veteran. Like, I've seen a lot of Oregon.
I've seen a lot of Oregon in my days. FAV Gaming are the best Oregon team I have seen, especially on defense. Like, attacks, yeah, they've still got a few kinks to work out there, but on defense, these guys look untouchable. Now time to put that final nail in the coffin here. Lock this one out. That's a nice way to start it. Afro, he's like, look, a 4K wasn't good enough for me last round. I'm going to start things nice and early. 20 seconds into the round, and he's got the opening kill onto one of the important hard breaches of Soulboy. I mean, Fav, what can you do? What can you do to stop these guys?
Soulboy, why did you do the wide swing when you could have just used the drone, my dude? It's so early in, you really didn't have to risk your life like that, especially when you know how Fav have been playing. And now Afro is going to be pushing up in meeting, but he won't actually be able to do anything. Papilia, who has been the victim of some of those opening deaths recently, getting his revenge in that situation. So that is one of those big threats on the side of FAV Gaming who has been taken out. But now he's going to have to deal with Taipon, who's positioned here in attic. And in go those flashes. It looks like he's going to be able to avoid them as they get eaten up by the ADS.
Well, at least Nora Rengo was able to trade out that Roma. They did bring the Jackal this time around to try and deal more successfully with those Romas. That's Yashingo switched off the Buck. But it's not been super impactful so far, at least because FAV Gaming are playing on site primarily. Look at that, all 4 players on site or in Pig, which is just that connector room to attic there, where Taipon and number 2 are at the moment. Now you're going to start droning things up, and this is actually pretty decent control for Nora, but Yashingo, we've seen him overextend as a solo player a little bit too much maybe in this game so far. If he tries to pick up White Stairs, Shin might take him out and restore that numbers advantage for FAV Gaming. Some good positions here, though, for Nora Rengo. They're starting to shape up. Look at this. 4 players all pincered around in positions to contest from different angles. Now, this is a huge gamble for Yashingo. He has to walk through that barbed wire. Surely Shin on the other side is going to hear it. But Papilia takes him out from the big window. Finally, this is the opening that Nora Rengo needed.
This is the coordination that we're really hoping to see from them. Just under a minute remaining. They have plenty of time to make this work out for them. They were able to do it on the defense. Can they make the aggression work for them on the attack? Well, Chloroform's getting ready here, just in case any of them begin to push on in. And there's that wall that's going to be going. They have the warning. Number 2, looking here for the protection of the clash. The nade's going to be sent in, not finding anyone just yet. And those pings there just gave everything that Nora Rengo needed as Yashingo finishes up that round and keeps them in the game.
I feel like I jinxed FAV now. I said if they win this round, they'll be undefeated in every single Oregon official match that they've played on defense. But yeah, no, I feel bad. I can't say that anymore.
This is on you.
I'm sorry, FAV. Well, we're going to go the full distance here, at least in regulation. 6-5 at the moment means we'll need that 12th round to determine which team's going to win it. Well, rather, it's going to be, is FAV going to win it, or are we going to see overtime? Those are the 2 possibilities from here on out, and I will credit Nora Rengo. After a starvation of rounds here on their attacking side, they finally pulled one together. And for me, firstly, trading out Afro on that roam was pretty pivotal. Maintaining that numbers equality was super, super important late into the round. And also ensuring that there were no roamers. It meant that FAV couldn't go and backstab Nora Rengo late. Then we noticed, curiously, Nora Rengo had all 4 players in different positions. We had Meriu pushing from the game's wall from the closet in Master. We had 1 player pushing from Trophy, 1 player pushing from bottom stairs, and 1 player on the big window. And you might think, oh, that's dangerous. No one can refrag each other. But what it meant is they'd established really strong crossfires that really isolated these FAV players. And in particular, firstly, it was the maestro of Shin who was taken out at top White Stairs because he was trying to contest towards both Trophy and the game's wall, and he was exposed to big window. And I really liked that way that Nora Rengo had the confidence in each of their individual players that they could split up and still make it work.
There you go, a little round breakdown popping up on your screen just there, just in case you've forgotten how all of this has gone. Obviously, as you mentioned, that last round was the first one that Nora Rengo were able to take on their attack. And they're going to be looking to repeat the fruits of their labor this time round. They are going to be, of course, bringing that Jackal once again. You mentioned before how that gives them a lot more of an understanding of where those opponents are, and it evidently worked out pretty well for them. And FAV Gaming, they've gone for the Valkyrie, which was, if I remember correctly, a 6-bit. I think it was a 6-bit.
I didn't quite see, but they did bring the Valkyrie last round anyway.
Yeah.
And that was an adaptation they changed last round because previously Afro was on the Goya.
Well, obviously, he got taken down very early in that last round. And you also have to remember that there are going to be certain mistakes that hopefully will be fixed here by Nora Rengo. For example, Soulboy doing that really early aggressive peeking thing. If he doesn't do that this time, then you've got that second heart breach still on the board, which is something they didn't have before. That gives them an even bigger advantage in their attack.
Yeah, and I really like this from Nora Rengo so far. We noticed that Afro went all the way back to site because he got Jackal tracked, but somehow he was allowed to just leave site again and kill Soulboy. You were just saying, hey, finally, Soulboy hasn't died early. I think you jinxed him now. What are we casters cursing both of these teams right now? This is just ridiculous.
It certainly seems like that's what's happening. Okay, well, the thing that the Afro now has to deal with is the fact you've got two of these members of Nora Rengo, Yoshingo and Papilia, present on this ground floor that's going to make any kind of push back towards, the site or any other part of the map, really, very, very difficult for him as those angles get held. And you've got Meryu running around as well. They're really investing in trying to flush him out. And I mean, I don't blame them. It's Afro. But it also wastes time.
Oh, I think he just got tracked. Jackal track coming out, and that means Yoshingo knows where he is. That's a great usage of that operator there, and Yoshingo eventually gets that trade, that refrag. It was a very long time. Maybe you can't even call it a trade, but they finally got him. That's so much time wasted. And well, previously, Nora Rengo were executing onto site with 30 seconds left. And well, they might try and reposition to exactly where they were the last time around. And indeed, they are. You can see one player bottom white stairs, one player trophy. We've got that player big window. Have we got that player on the closet? Because if not, I don't think this is going to work out. Yeah, Simatsuki is still way far afield, nowhere to be seen. We need to see Nora Rengo form up because time is ticking away. Look at that, just 20 seconds left and FAV still have 4 players up. Nora Rengo, it's your turn. You've got to move right now. Nothing is happening. 15 seconds, it's match point against you guys. Get a move on. Type 1 is putting a stop to any idea of pushing through trophy. Number 2 is going to add to that. Simatsuki jumps straight into the bomb site and finds one, gets the injure. Yoshingo also to come through, but he gets taken down. Chloroform gets both of them, and it looks like FAV might have this in the bag. They just need to deny the plans, and that is it for FAV Gaming. Nora Rengo gave it their all here on Oregon, but no one can take down FAV Gaming on their home turf.
It looked on the first half like Nora Rengo really knew what they were doing. And FAV turned around on their defense and said, no, this is our stomping grounds. And the fact that on that last round there, Nora Rengo should have had everything going for them given how well they executed the previous round. But they knew how much of a risk having Afro alive was. And they invested so much time, so much personnel into clearing him out that by the time that was done, there was no time remaining. Even if you wanted to send your Maverick up to try and open up the games room wall, you have, 20 seconds left? What were you going to do with that? Nothing. And that's exactly what happened by the end.
Absolutely nut stuff there from FAV. Credit to Nora Rengo, they looked much stronger today. They looked like they had what it took, but FAV Gaming to edge it out in the end. That ends up with FAV on defensive Oregon, a 90% win rate. Nora Rengo could put a dent in that perfect flawless, but it's not enough to get the victory here. Let's take it over to our analyst to break that down for you.
Thank you so much, James and